Learn new vocabulary and improve your listening comprehension as we listen to a story sent to us by longtime friend of the podcast, José Molina Marco. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig.
Hello and welcome. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And together, Reza and I have 50 years of teaching experience between us, and we're going to help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you, Reza?
I'm fine, Craig. I'm feeling well. A little bit cooler than a few days ago. It was surprisingly warm for this time of year. Now it's a bit chillier. I'm noting that. But apart from that, I can't complain. What about you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm excited to be podcasting again with you today, although sadly we're not together because of the pandemic restrictions. We're recording in February 2021, so Reza was not able to come to my flat to record. But I can hear you okay, Reza, so let's go ahead. What are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to listen to a story, and not for the first time, from Jose. You can hear Jose's possibly true story from a previous episode in 214. Also, we talked about Joseph's true English story in episode 171. But before that, it might be even better if you start with the episode How to Tell a Story in English, which we recorded a long time ago, one of the earlier recordings, 137. So to get to that, go to inglespodcast.com/ and then put in the number 137 or 171 or 214. You can see these numbers in the show notes.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, you might like to send us your story. So we'd be very interested to hear from you if you do that. But let's look at Jose's. And before you listen to Jose's story, we'd like to look at some vocabulary. Now, the word despite can be problematic, despite. You can say despite plus noun. For example, despite the bad weather, I went to the beach. But if you have a verb after despite, you need to say the fact that. With a similar example, despite the fact that it was raining, I went to the beach. So I'm using the verb was. I need to say the fact that. That's one expression Jose uses, despite.
Another good expression that Jose uses is to bump into someone. That's a phrasal verb. We got the verb, bump, and the preposition, into. And they must go together because they have a meaning which is not the same if you take away the preposition. To bump is not the same as bump into. Bump into has a physical, a literal meaning, but it also has an idiomatic, not a literal meaning. So if you bump into someone, it could mean that physically your bodies collide. There's a collision. You didn't see each other and you had physical contact. Or the idiomatic use is that you, by chance, it wasn't planned, you see someone in the street or some other kind of public place. That's also to bump into someone.
Jose uses a lovely expression, from head to toe, from head to toe, which means from top to bottom. If you go out and suddenly it starts raining, maybe you get completely wet from the rain. You get wet from your hair to your shoes. You get wet from head to toe.
Another nice verb that Jose uses, and not an easy verb to use if you don't know it, is to belittle someone. That's right. A be plus little, as in small, put them together and you get a verb, belittle. But it doesn't mean to be small. No, it doesn't mean that. To belittle someone means that you talk down to them. You treat them in an inferior way, like you are superior to them. They are below you. You make them feel little, I guess. So in Spanish, it would be denigrar. So Jose uses that verb to belittle someone.
If you're a detective and you're looking for evidence in a crime, the noun you could use is proof, Proof. You have proof of the murder. You find the gun and there are fingerprints on the gun, and that is the proof that the person killed someone. Well, the verb of proof is prove with a V, Prove, to prove something.
Another nice word from Jose's story, which you're going to hear in a minute, is stool. 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 I could say it the easy way if you speak Spanish, taburete, but if I were to give a definition, I would say that it's like a chair, but it doesn't have a back. Yes, the place where you put your back on a chair is called the back. So a back is a piece of your body, a body part, but it also is the place where you put your back on a chair. So a stool has no back.
Do you remember, Reza, we used to, long time ago, we used to go to a place called a bar to have a beer, and we used to sit on bar stools? Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Seems like ancient history. A word that I learned, so thank you, Jose, for teaching me a word in Spanish, is easel. And the Spanish word, if you speak Spanish, is caballete, Easel. And an easel is where artists put their canvas or their paper when they're painting. It's like a stand, kind of a piece of furniture in a way, where the artist puts the canvas to draw or paint.
Another word which we'd like you to know, and it's a word which is very important if you come from Ireland like me, because it's like a national symbol of Ireland.
It's on the Guinness, isn't it?
It's on the Guinness and many other things. It's the harp, of course, with an H, H-A-R-P, harp, which of course in Spanish is arpa, the musical instrument.
So that's some vocabulary that will help you with comprehension when you listen to Jose's story, and we're going to play his story now. But before you listen, we'd like you to think about these two questions and try and answer these comprehension questions while you're listening. You could write them down or just think of the answer if you're driving while you're listening. So 2 questions for you before we listen to the story. And after the story, we'll look at some vocabulary more in detail and help Jose with some corrections. So question number 1, how did the girl prove that she was an artist? How did the girl prove that she was an artist?
The second question is, how much money did Jose pay for the painting? I'll repeat that. How much money did Jose pay for the painting?
And now listen to The Street Seller by Jose Molina Marco.
Hello, Craig and Reza. I'm going to tell you something that happened to me last Saturday. I was walking on the footpath and a street seller came to me and stopped me. In my haste, I bumped into her. I said sorry to her and I stopped despite I was in a hurry as an attention for bumping to her. The around 25 years old girl was wearing a coat and thick colorful stockings. But what it was weird to me is that she was also wearing a lot of tattoos in her face. This made me think that she would be tattooed from head to toe. She was trying to sell me one painting. She showed me some of them that she had in a big folder. I wasn't interested and I wasn't paying too much attention. It's not that I was belittling her, but I wasn't showing much attention to the paintings because I didn't want to buy any. Then she told me that the paintings had been painted by herself, and I felt embarrassed for not having shown more interest to them. I told her that I didn't believe her. To be truth, I didn't want it was truth. Then she told me that for proving it to me, she was capable to paint my face in a portrait in 15 minutes if I bought it from her. I told her that I didn't want to commit on it. I only would buy the portrait if I liked it. Then she told me that I followed her and she started to jog in a happy way to a more spacious place 10 meters from we were and where she had all her stuff. She sat down on a stool and gave me another one. She took a soaked paint brush and looking at me for 2 seconds, she started to paint the paper she had in the easel. There was a lot of people passing by, but nobody looked at us because there was something better to watch for. Close to us, there was 2 girls. One was playing the arpa. Another one was dancing ballet tippy-toes. 15 minutes later, she started to dry off the painting brush and told me, "Here you are." She showed it to me and I like it. I told her I will buy the painting for 20 euros. She told me that the painting costed 15 euros. I insisted in paying 20 euros for it. So, this story had a happy end. I took the portrait and she took 20 euros.
Okay, did you get the answers to those 2 comprehension questions? The first one, how did the girl prove that she was an artist? What's the answer, Reza?
Well, she painted Jose's face in 15 minutes. And you can't do that, I guess, unless you're an artist.
And how much money did Jose pay for the painting?
The answer to that is 20 euros.
So we hope you got those questions correct. If you want to check with the text, just go to inglespodcast.com/351 and there you will see the comprehension questions, the answers, and Jose's story written in text. But let's go back and look in detail, paragraph by paragraph, and see if we can slightly improve Jose's story from an English perspective.
I was walking on the footpath and a street seller came to me and stopped me. In my haste, I bumped into her. I said sorry to her and I stopped despite I was in a hurry as an attention for bumping to her.
So we're going to look at the language Jose's used here. He began very well, but he did have a little mistake with the word despite. We mentioned the word despite at the beginning. It's a good word to use, a good linker. But as Craig mentioned, you cannot say, despite I was in a hurry. That's what Jose said. You can't do that. If you're going to have a subject and verb after despite, I was, then you must add the words, the fact that. So he should have said, despite the fact that I was in a hurry. Another little thing which I noticed, it may be a question of the audio, I'm not quite sure, but I think he said, for bumping to her. But as we said before when we explained the vocabulary, the preposition is bump into someone. So it should be bumping into her. But we're not quite sure if Jose said bumping to her or he said bump in to her. But either way, it's wrong. The correct version should be bumping into her.
The around 25 years old girl was wearing a coat and thick colorful stockings, but what it was weird to me is that she was also wearing a lot of tattoos in her face. This made me think that she would be tattooed from head to toe.
In this paragraph, Jose says the around 25 years old girl. I understand exactly what you mean, Jose, but it's better to say the girl seemed about 25 years old and was wearing a coat. The girl seemed about 25 years old. And in the same paragraph, you say, Jose, but what it was weird to me, what it was weird to me is not necessary. Better to say, but what was weird to me is that she was also wearing. And finally, you speak about tattoos and you say, wearing a lot of tattoos in her face. The preposition is on her face. A better way would be to say, she also had a lot of face tattoos, or she also had a lot of tattoos on her face.
She was trying to sell me one painting. She showed me some of them that she had in a big folder. I wasn't interested and I wasn't paying too much attention. It's not that I was belittling her, but I wasn't showing much attention to the paintings because I didn't want to buy any.
Jose said she was trying to sell me one painting. Well, maybe that is strictly correct. Yes, she was trying to sell him one painting, but the fact that it's one and not two is not really the main point here. It's just a painting. We only use the word one painting, one shoe, one idea, whenever we're counting. For example, one painting compared to 3 paintings. But we're not counting here. It's just the fact that it was a painting. So just use the word a. She was trying to sell me a painting. And he continues, she shown me some of them. Shown is the past participle of show. Or it can be, I should say. In other words, the verb to show is to show, and the past simple showed, and the past participle can be shown or showed. But this is not what we need here. We don't need the past participle here. We need the past simple. So it should be, she showed me some of them.
Then she told me that the paintings had been painted by herself, and I felt embarrassed for not having shown more interest to them. I told her that I didn't believe her. To be truth, I didn't want it was truth.
In the next paragraph, Jose says that she told me that the paintings had been painted by herself. So here, Jose uses the passive, but it really isn't necessary. Better to say she had painted them, or she'd done the paintings. She had done the paintings. We need the past perfect because we're doing like a prepasado. We're going back twice before she told me. So she told me is past simple. She told me that she had done the paintings, and we contract the had. She told me she'd done the paintings, or she told me she'd painted them. And in the same paragraph, a slight mistake with prepositions, Jose said for not having shown more interest to them. Better to use the preposition in with interest. I'm interested in, to show interest in something. So not having shown more interest in them. And finally, the final sentence, Jose says, to be truth, I didn't want it was truth. So how can we improve that? Well, I would say to be honest, or even to be frank, F-R-A-N-K. To be honest or to be frank, I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want it to be true. So use the adjective true to be true and not the noun truth. That sentence again, to be honest, I didn't want it to be true. Remember, you can see all of these corrections on the website, inglespodcast.com/351.
I'm just thinking, Craig, there is also the possibility of using the adjective truthful, though it's not so common. I guess you could say to be truthful.
Yeah,
But that sounds a little bit old-fashioned to me. Would you agree?
Possibly, but it's perfectly correct.
Yeah. But you hear "to be honest" a lot more, don't you?
Yeah, to be honest, you do.
Yeah, exactly.
You do, to be honest, to be frank.
Yeah, it's such a common expression. It's such a common collocation, words that go together, that when people write text, like WhatsApp texts, they write TBH, to be honest. And everybody knows that those letters TBH stand for to be honest, because it's such a common expression.
And it's kind of strange if you think about it. I mean, why would you say it or write it? Does it mean that usually you are not honest? And just now, at the moment, you're being honest? You said, well, to be honest, I don't think it's true, to be honest. But why are you usually not honest? Only now you're being honest? It's weird to me.
I use it personally when I'm saying that maybe it's a bit embarrassing or a bit difficult to say what you're going to say. Like, for example, your girlfriend wants to know, do you like her new haircut? And you say, to be honest, I prefer the old one. So you're not saying that you're usually not honest. You're just saying that here comes a bit of honesty, which you may not like.
You know that's very dangerous, not to like your girlfriend's haircut. You know that, don't you?
Yeah. To be honest, Craig, I normally lie and say what I think she wants to hear.
To be perfectly truthful, it looks horrible. Much safer to say, yes, darling, it looks fantastic.
Let's go on with Jose's story to the next paragraph, the one which he begins, "Then she told me that for proving it to me, she was capable."
Then she told me that for proving it to me, she was capable to paint my face in a portrait in 15 minutes if I bought it from her. I told her that I didn't want to commit on it. I only would buy the portrait if I liked it.
Right, we spoke about prove at the beginning, in the vocabulary section. It would be better if he said, then she told me that she could prove it to me. And he goes on, to paint my face in a portrait in 15 minutes. So the two parts, if we put them together and correct them, should be, then she told me that she could prove it to me by painting my portrait in 15 minutes if I bought it from her. Another tiny little mistake, but let's correct it, and that Jose makes is later he said that I told her that I didn't want to commit on it. The preposition which collocates with commit is commit to it. I didn't want to commit to it.
Then she told me that I followed her and she started to jog in a happy way to a more spacious place 10 meters from we were and where she had all her stuff.
In the next paragraph, Jose, a similar mistake with the verb to tell. You say, then she told me that I followed her. Better to say, she told me to follow her. You're giving an instruction, you're giving an order. Use the infinitive, to follow. She told me to follow her. A similar example, my boss told me to work on Saturday. And in the same sentence, from we were, you say to a more spacious place 10 meters from we were. It's a place, so you need where. From where we were and where she had left all her stuff. So you do use where, but you also need it twice. You need it from where we were and where she had left all her stuff.
She sat down on a stool and gave me another one.
He says, she sat down on a stool and gave me another one. That's not right, of course. He should say, she sat down on a stool and gave me one to sit on too. Now that you might hear that and think, 1, 2, is Reza counting here? No, I'm not counting 1, 2, 3. She gave me one means she gave me a stool. Now, why do I use the word one? Well, simply to avoid repeating the word stool. For example, I might say to Craig, would you like a chocolate, Craig?
Yes, please.
Would you prefer a dark one or a white one?
I'd prefer a dark one.
I knew you'd say that. Yeah, he likes his dark chocolate. So a dark one is a dark chocolate and a white one is a white chocolate. To avoid saying, would you prefer a dark chocolate or a white chocolate? I don't need to repeat the word chocolate. That's a lot of syllables. So we use it as a substitute word. You just use the word one. It can even be plural. I could say to Craig, I'm going to buy some chocolates. Plural, right? I'm going to buy some chocolates for us to eat after the podcast. Should I buy dark ones or white ones?
Dark ones.
Of course he was going to say that. Dark ones. So he's made the word one plural. Ones, because there's more than one. So one or ones, plural, is what we call a substitute word to avoid repeating the word. So to say it again, she sat down on a stool and gave me one to sit on. And then, Craig, we can add the word two. But Craig, is that TWO, the number two?
No, it's TOO, which is also también.
Right. Maybe you were a bit confused when you heard gave me one to sit on two. It's not the number two. Yeah. And whenever we say one, we're not counting the stool. It's not that. It's the fact that we don't want to repeat the word stool because it sounds a bit boring and unnecessary if you keep repeating nouns. So let me say it again. She sat down on a stool and gave me one to sit on too.
She took a soaked paint brush and looking at me for 2 seconds, she started to paint the paper she had in the easel.
The next sentence, she took a soaked paintbrush. I don't think we looked at the word soak in the vocabulary. To soak means to fill with something, usually liquid. For example, if you walk in the rain with no coat, maybe your t-shirt is soaked or you are soaked. You're full of water. You're full of rain. She took a soaked paintbrush. I'm guessing the paintbrush is full of paint. And looking at me for 2 seconds, she started to paint the paper she had in the easel. No, the correct preposition is on the easel. The paper or the canvas, canvas, is on the easel.
There was a lot of people passing by, but nobody looked at us because there was something better to watch for.
In Jose's next sentence, he said, there was a lot of people passing by, but nobody looked at us because there was something better to watch for. To watch for doesn't sound quite right. Jose, I think it would be better if you said there was something better to see. Because to watch for something does exist. The preposition for does collocate with watch. But if you watch for something, it means that you're waiting, you're vigilant, you're expecting something in particular to happen, and you're just waiting for the moment that it happens. But that's not what you're doing here. You're simply, hopefully, you're going to see something better, something interesting. So you're not planning, you're not preparing what you're going to see.
Close to us, there was 2 girls. One was playing the arpa. Another one was dancing ballet tippy-toes.
Next sentence, close to us, there was 2 girls. Girls is plural, so better to use were for the past plural of the verb to be. So close to us, there were 2 girls. One was playing the arpa. So here, Jose, you've used the Spanish word for the musical instrument, which in English is harp, H-A-R-P. So playing the harp. Remember, we use the collocation to play a musical instrument. Don't be confused with the Spanish verb tocar, which translates perhaps as touch. So it's not touching the harp, it's playing the harp. So well done, Jose, for knowing that.
Yeah, and Jose, can I just add that I love your next sentence there, which was correct. You said another one was dancing ballet tippy-toes. I love your expression tippy-toes.
I wasn't sure about that. I didn't correct it, but I would say on tiptoes, although tippy-toes That's correct, is it? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think, well, let's say that on tiptoes is more correct, so to speak. But you do hear, particularly in American English and in an informal way, people saying tippy toes,
Yeah.
meaning on tiptoes.
On tiptoes, yeah.
But it does sound kind of, I suppose, a little bit weird with ballet, because ballet, they're not doing it, in a sneaky way, trying to hide something. That's more like tippy toes, like, let's see if we can get past this sleeping dog. We don't want to wake it up. Let's do it tippy toes.
Or imagine, Jose, you come back drunk one night. I'm sure you never do, but imagine you did, and you want to go inside your flat without waking your family. So maybe you go in on tiptoe, or you go in tippy toes so you don't make any noise.
And did you notice, listeners, that Jose did use the word one very well here? Just exactly as how we explained a couple of minutes ago. He said one was playing the harp, another one was dancing ballet.
Instead of repeating girls, yeah.
Yeah, he's using the word one as the substitute word to avoid repeating the word girl. So well done, Jose.
15 minutes later, she started to dry off the painting brush and told me, "Here you are." She showed it to me and I like it. I told her I will buy the painting for 20 euros. She told me that the painting costed 15 euros. I insisted in paying 20 euros for it.
Nearly at the end of his story, there's just a couple more paragraphs to go. In the penultimate paragraph, he said, 15 minutes later, she started to dry off the paintbrush and told me, "Here you are." She showed it to me and I liked it. And Jose said, I told her I will buy the painting for 20 euros. I will. I know why you said that, Jose, because those are the words that came out of your mouth. The words which came out of your mouth are, I will buy the painting for 20 euros. But you're reporting what you said in the past. In that case, when will is being reported from the past, you have to change it to would. So you have to say, I told her I would buy the painting for 20 euros. And you continued, she told me that the painting costed 15 euros. Costed doesn't exist. It's an irregular verb. To cost, past simple cost, and past participle cost. Cost. So the painting cost 15 euros. And your last sentence was, I insisted in paying 20 euros for it. Classic Spanish mistake. Insist plus in, but it's not. It's insist plus on. I insisted on paying 20 euros for it.
So, this story had a happy end. I took the portrait and she took 20 euros.
And to finish the story, Jose says, so this story had a happy end. I'm not sure why, but it's better to say ending, which is strange. I don't know if you know the reason, Reza, because it is the end of the story and it's also the ending. But I'm not sure why it sounds better to me. It had a happy ending.
For me, I just consider it a collocation. Words that go together. Like, to be honest, it's very typical to put happy with ending, happy ending. It's a common collocation.
Yeah. So when you're talking about a story, it has a happy ending, or maybe it has a sad ending. But in this case, Jose took the portrait. The girl took 20 euros. I think that's a very happy ending. And Jose, thank you very much for taking the time to send us your story. If you have a story to tell us, we would love to hear it. It doesn't have to be an international thriller with James Bond or people getting shot or anything dramatic. Just tell us about something that has happened to you recently, and we would love to feature it in the podcast. Reza, how can people get in touch with us?
We'd love you to get in touch. Above all, speaking, we'd love to hear your voice. So why not practice your English? Have you got a story to tell us? Why not send it to us as a voice message? Send it to speakpipe.com/English podcast. Or you could send us an email to craig@inglespodcast.com or belfastreza@gmail.com.
And thank you to all of you who are supporting us by helping with our Patreon program. Go to Patreon, patreon.com/Ingles Podcast if you'd like to participate. And we'd like to say hello and welcome to our new Patreon sponsors who have joined us recently. And they are Carlos Martinez Fuentes, Charo Toscano, Cristina, Susana Ricaño, Mónica Valiente Navalon, Valeria, Maria Barrio, and special thanks to Gerard and Uriel, who have donated more than the minimum of €1 per month. And special hello also to Monica, who sent us an email after we read her name on last week's podcast. And Monica says, "Hi, this is my first message to you, but it won't be the last. I've been listening to your podcast since the pandemic began, and I enjoy them very much. Today, I was listening to your last podcast about changing habits," that was last week, "and how the restrictions are affecting our lives." Monica also lives in the same city as us in Valencia. And she says, "I wanted to tell you that my new habit in this pandemic is listening to your podcast while I'm walking. I usually go for a walk 2 or 3 times a week. And today, while I was walking, I heard my name at the end of the podcast, and that made me laugh and smile. And that's all we're trying to do, make you laugh and smile, and of course, help you with your English. So thanks, Monica. That really made me smile when I read your message this morning."
We're nearly at the end of our podcast. Not the ending, by the way. Not like the happy ending in Jose's story, because happy endings tend to be for stories. So a podcast is a podcast, it's not a story, although it contained Jose's story, right? But we're nearly at the end, not the ending, the end of our podcast. But don't forget that you can join the Patreon program if you like, for as little as about $1.20 per month. The 20 cents is to include VAT, the tax. And if you do that, you get instant access to recent transcriptions. If you're interested, have a look at Patreon, that's Patreon, patreon.com/Ingles Podcast.
So last week, as Monica said, we spoke about helping you with your habits during the pandemic and developing good habits. Next week, we're going to focus on some grammar, specifically how to use the pronoun it, and of course, answer your questions and doubts that you've been sending us connected to English. So keep on sending us your feedback. We love hearing from you, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again next week. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.